we are going to create a 2-point interior, so a bedroom in 2-point perspective. So I'm going to start the same way I always start for every perspective construction, and that is with my horizon line and my vanishing points. So somewhere near the center of my page, we're going to draw a horizontal straight line that represents our eye level as the viewer and as the artist. So we have our horizon line in. Now we're going to put our vanishing points. So since this is 2-point perspective, we need 2 vanishing points. So one on the far left-hand side of the paper and one on the far right-hand side of the paper. We're going to start by building our room. So I'm going to start with a vertical line. I don't want it to be dead center because that'll give me kind of even walls. So I'm going to move it off to the center, off to the right side of center a little bit. It's going to cut through my horizon line, but it's not going to touch the top or the bottom of the paper. So I'm going to be about 2 inches from the top of the paper, and I'm going to start my line. It's going to go down through my horizon line, and I'm going to stop about 2 inches or so from the bottom of my paper as well. So this is going to be the corner that I'm going to have my lines converge from, the corner of my room. So what I'm going to do now is on that vertical I just made, I'm going to line my the bottom of that up with my vanishing point on the right, but I'm going to draw down towards the left. I'm going to go a little bit shorter than what I actually drew because I want to see more of that floor. So that's going to line up there. I'm going to draw down towards the left. I'm going to do the same thing now, but I'm going to take it to the opposite vanishing point, or you're going to use the opposite vanishing point. So that vertical that I just made, the bottom of that, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, but I'm going to draw down towards the right. So right now, this is my floor in my room here. So the top lines up to my vanishing point on the right, and I draw up towards the left-hand side of my paper. I'm going to do the same thing now for the opposite vanishing point. So the top of that vertical I made lines up with my vanishing point on the left, but I'm going to draw up towards the right. The wall on the right-hand side of my room. This is the wall on the left-hand side, ceiling and floor. And again, it's as if I'm standing in one corner of the room and I'm looking at the opposite corner. In 2-point perspective, we see things vanishing off in 2 different directions. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a door. I'm going to put the door on the right-hand side of my room. In 2-point perspective, the only things that stay straight up and down anymore are our verticals. Everything else will converge to a vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my door be close to the right-hand side of my paper. So I'm going to bring my ruler in a little bit from the edge of my paper, and it's going to stay parallel to, again, my picture plane, or parallel to that very first vertical that I drew. And it's going to start a little bit higher than my horizon line, and it's going to go down, and it's going to hit that converging line, which is the floor of this interior space. I'm going to do the same thing now. So I'm going to come over to the left of that vertical that I just drew. I'm going to make the other side of my door by coming to the left of that a bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with a line that's a vertical, that's a little bit higher than my horizon line. Goes down through my horizon line, but stops when it hits the bottom line of the converging line of my floor here. So the bottom's already done for me to finish out the door because that's a part of my back wall, but I have to do the top. And I know that the top has to go to the left-hand side vanishing point because it's on a wall that is constructed using lines that point to that vanishing point. So if I were to follow these lines that made the wall, it points me to the left-hand side vanishing point. So anything that I put on this wall that's flush with the wall, windows, doors, they're going to vanish towards the same vanishing point. So the top of that vertical that I made that started my door, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, and I'm going to draw to the left until those two verticals meet. And that will construct the top of my door. And I can finish my door by adding in a doorknob. So there's my door on the wall on the right-hand side of my room here in 2-point perspective. What I'm going to add next are windows. So I'm going to add a window over here on my right-hand side wall, and I'm going to make another one, maybe I'll make another 2 over here on the left-hand side wall in my room here. So we start with verticals. Verticals stay straight up and down. So this back wall or back corner, that very first vertical we drew when we started our drawing, I'm going to come a little bit to the right of that, and I'm going to do another vertical that's underneath my ceiling line and stops before it hits my horizon line. To make the other side, I add another vertical in. So I'm going to come more over towards the right of the vertical that I just drew for this window. I'm going to do the same thing. So my verticals are going to stay parallel to my picture plane. They're not going to bow in or bow out. They stay straight up and down. And I'm going to do another vertical that's underneath my ceiling line and stops before it hits my horizon line. Now again, to complete this, I'm going to have it converge towards the left-hand side vanishing point. And again, I know that because I can look at the top line of the wall, the bottom of the line of the wall. And they're pointing me to the direction of the vanishing point on the left. So since this is a window that's flush with or on the wall on my right-hand side here, and it's pointing me towards that, that means that the lines are going to converge towards the vanishing point on the left. So the second vertical that I made, I'm going to take the top of that, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, and I'm going to draw to the left until those two lines meet. Same thing for the bottom. So the bottom of that vertical, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, and I'm going to draw towards the left until those two lines meet. Add a little bit more vertical there so that the window is converging back in 3D space. So now my windows are set into the wall, so I'm going to see the thickness of the wall again. And it's just like in 1-point perspective. If our window, in this case, is on the wall on the right-hand side, then we're going to see the thickness on the left of the window. So I'm going to start by making that thickness. But I have to take the top corner here, because remember, we don't have straight horizontals anymore. Can't do a straight horizontal in. I have to take it to the opposite side vanishing point. So the top left corner of my window gets lined up with my vanishing point on the right, and I'm going to draw a little line down towards the right. Then where I let this converging line end, I'm going to do a vertical straight down. In 2-point perspective, the only things that stay straight anymore, straight up and down, that don't converge to some place, is our verticals. So I'm going to lightly shade that. Then the corner where that converging line met my vertical, that point where those two lines met, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, but I'm going to draw up towards the right, just like I did for my ceiling line, back until it hits that window. I'm going to shade that in a little bit darker, so that this is my window, and that's the part of the wall that it is recessed into. I'm going to make another window on the other side. I think I'm going to actually make 2 windows. So I'm going to start by doing my verticals. So I'm going to come a little bit towards the left of that vertical that we first made to make our drawing. And I'm going to do a vertical that's straight down. It doesn't touch the ceiling line, and it doesn't touch my horizon line. Then I'm going to come again over towards the left of that, give myself some space, and I'm going to do another vertical that doesn't touch my horizon line, and it doesn't touch the top or the ceiling line either. Then I'm going to give myself some space because I'm going to do 2 windows here. And this window is going to be smaller than this window here because of atmospheric perspective. Remember, in atmospheric perspective, things that are closer to us, like my hand right now, looks bigger. Things that are farther away look smaller. And that's because of atmospheric perspective. So I'm going to leave some space from that vertical. That'll be my wall in between the 2 windows. And I'm going to do another vertical, again, parallel to my picture plane to the side of my paper. That, again, does not touch my ceiling line, and it does not touch my horizon line either. And so this is the space that's going to be this window. I'm going to leave more space so it's bigger because this window is technically closer to me in our environment here, or in our interior space that we're constructing. So I'm going to come to the right of the edge of my paper, leave myself some space there. And I'm going to do another vertical that doesn't quite touch the top of the paper and doesn't quite touch my horizon line. Now I'm going to have these lines converge back in 3D space. So again, since it's on a wall, this wall on the left-hand side, I can look at the ceiling line and the line of the floor to point to the direction of the vanishing point I need to use to converge to. So since it's on the wall on the left-hand side, I'm going to converge it to the vanishing point on the right. So the top of this very first vertical that I made, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the right, and then I'm going to draw towards the right. I'm going to do the top for my first window, and I'm going to do the top for my second window. I'm going to do the same thing now at the bottom. So the bottom of that very first vertical that I drew to make the windows on the left-hand side of my room here, I'm going to line the bottom of that point, that vertical, up with my vanishing point on the right, but I'm going to draw towards the left until the 2 verticals for each window meet. And I can extend this line up since it went off the page. Now I'm going to do the thickness of the windows. So the window on the right-hand side of the room, we saw the thickness on the left. Since these windows are on the left-hand wall, I'm going to see the thickness of the window on the right. So I'm going to take the top corner of each, so top right corner of each window. I'm going to line them up individually. So starting with this one nearest the corner of my wall, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point on the left, and I'm going to draw a small line in the window towards the left. Do the same thing now for my other window on the left-hand side of my room. Top of that vertical that I first drew to make it, the right-hand side, top, lines up with a vanishing point on the left here, and I'm going to draw a small line in towards the left. Now I need to do the vertical portion. So on this first window, where I let that converging line end, I'm going to do a vertical that's straight down. Again, it should be parallel with my picture plane or parallel with the corner of my room. You don't want your verticals to start going at angles. They need to stay straight up and down. Same thing for the other window, where I let that converging line end, gets a vertical straight down until it meets the bottom of that windowsill. Shaded it in again so you can see this has the thickness. Then the corner where that converging line met my vertical, where those 2 lines met each other, I'm going to take that point, line it up with the opposite side vanishing point. So it's going to line up with my vanishing point on the right, but just like I did for my ceiling line, I'm going to draw back towards the left. So for this window, that's the thickness of the ceiling part, the side part, and that's my window. Same thing for this window. So where the converging line met my vertical, that point lines up with my vanishing point on the right, but I'm going to draw up towards the left so that this is the thickness of the ceiling part for this window. There's the window itself, and that's creating a door and a set of windows on each wall in my room in 2-point perspective.